Hi, welcome to the Digital Access Show. I'm Narelle Wright, and I'm the host, whatever you want to call it. Last week, we talked about documents and the lack of accessibility with documents. And I talked about an issue I've been having with filling out a document. This week, let me explain another issue to you. Most people will know I am a massive Brisbane Broncos fan. I've followed them since day one, and I love the team. However, being vision impaired, I cannot watch the TV anymore. The commentators drive me crazy because they do not commentate adequately so that I can picture in my mind what's happening on the screen. There's too much dropouts, and we'll go back and we'll look at something or whatever it is, or they throw in something to make it interesting. But for a person with vision impairment, it's a huge problem. So I thought, okay, let's start seeing what we can do about it. So I've actually have as a guest today, Belinda Vesey-Brown from Meet Aandi. Belinda, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Narelle. I love an opportunity to talk accessibility, my favorite
Yeah,
topic.
it's mine too, isn't it? Belinda, can you tell me a bit about yourself and what you do at Meet Aandi?
Yeah, sure. So, hello, everyone. I'm Belinda. I am a short blonde woman wearing my pink jacket today because it's a little bit chilly. Meet Aandi actually stands for Meet. Andy is accessibility and inclusion, and is something that we are very passionate about. And we do not only document remediation and consulting on all things accessibility, but we do video remediation. We have our own SaaS tool, if you like, that makes it easy.
It's one of the things I don't think people really think about is audio description on videos. They know about captioning, and one of my big bugbears is AI generated captioning where the spelling's not correct and the grammar, the punctuation, and the timing is out. And that's really frustrating. And I know anecdotally, I obviously doesn't worry me, I can't see it. But people talk about how funny it is when the timing's out. The problems that I have watching a football game, can they be resolved?
Well, and you're talking about recorded games,
Yeah.
and absolutely can be resolved. And I want to go as far as saying should be resolved because the technology makes it so easy.
Yeah.
Narelle, there's no excuse for that. And you were talking before about, captions being, wrong. Oh,
Mm.
I've seen even brand names. We've got our, ANZ Bank, for
Yeah.
example. And when you use the
Yep.
automatic captioning, and that's their brand name, it
Mm.
immediately says A and ZED as their brand in the caption. And you're like, wow, it's such a simple thing to choose. You
Yep.
can, with a lot of tools these days, like such as ours,
Yep.
you can actually train it. So every time you hear that, this is how you should spell it.
Yeah.
There's
And
no
that's it.
excuses.
It's like my name. There is no AI that can get my name correct. Siri, I get Royal, I get all types of things. And I just
Yeah.
think, oh, yeah, I'm over it. So I've actually used accessibility, a trick with accessibility. So it actually puts my name correctly when I'm using Siri. But what is the options? What can people do with videos? What are the rules? Tell us about it.
Well, I think, first of all, I believe, and you probably do too, Narelle, that videos is actually the best communication tool. And we're seeing such a growth in the area, right? There's more and more
Yes.
videos being uploaded to YouTube than, ever before. Because video it can be visual, it can be auditory. You get a sense for a feeling of what's going on when you're watching it or you're hearing it. You can then choose how you consume that content. So one
Mm.
day you might want to just listen. And
Yes.
they're the things that I love about video. But the things to make it a video accessible is you need three things. And most
Yep.
people, and it's only because you've been, talking more about captions that most people would
Mm.
say, oh, well, there's captions. Yes, and
Mm.
caption is the first one. The second one is AD, as you said before, audio description. So that's describing what's being shown on the screen to those who can't see it, or to those who are listening in their car, perhaps.
Yeah.
And then the final thing you need to meet the standard for accessibility is a transcript. So a transcript of everything that's said and everything that's shown. So it's capturing the CC, the closed captions, and the audio
Yep.
description. And do you know what transcripts are good for, Narelle? They're really, really good for if you are learning something, or you're a student, or your
Mm.
English is a second language. You can look at it afterwards and highlight. You can read along if you're learning to read. You can read
Yeah.
along with what's being said, so you're seeing the letters and the words. And you can highlight things if you do a printout, if you're watching a video, if you are studying something. So
Yeah.
transcripts are so important.
And the interesting thing I don't think people realise is those three techniques are also part of the Australian Digital Accessibility Standards. And
Yes.
that's based on the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.2.
Mhm.
And it's so important because all it does, it's opening up video to everyone, isn't it?
Well, it is. Like I said, I actually think it is the most accessible medium, but only if it's been remediated properly.
Yeah. So if we look at captions first, what should
Mhm.
people be considering with captions?
Well, certainly you want to get your important words right, like your brand name or the spelling of your
Yes.
names. So you want to
Yep.
look for a tool that actually you can teach it or it can learn. Uh,
Mm.
you want to make sure that there's not too much on the screen. So you don't want the captions to be too large on the screen. And I know we don't always
Mm-hmm.
have control over how we can view that, but
Mm.
you want to have, you don't want to say too much in advance. You sort of want the words to come out as it's being said. We
Yeah.
have captions on all the time. We're watching TV, for example, and it's nothing more
Mm.
frustrating when you can actually see what they're going to say when they haven't
Yeah.
said it yet. Is it gives
Yeah.
away a bit of sometimes the punchline, which so
Yeah.
you don't want to have too much on the screen, becomes
Yeah.
overwhelming. Especially if we're looking at a neurodiverse audience who may be reading some of this, right? So we want to have it just short on the screen.
Yes.
And just make sure that they're there. A lot of the tools, it's an option, and you want to make
Mm.
sure that we do that. And I think most of us are getting pretty good at making sure that captions are there. It's the
Yeah.
audio description that's the bigger problem. Less
Yeah.
than 1% of the video on YouTube has audio description.
Yes. Yes, exactly. One other thing about captions I must ask you about, and I do have a tiny bit of sight, and I'll be watching something like trying to watch a footy game, would be an example, but they don't do this. And you see captions in bright yellow, horrible
Ah,
fonts in the
yes.
up the top, or well, what should people be doing? Should they be doing that? And they're burnt in. You actually can't turn it off. That's my second hate.
Yeah. Well, and then, having them burnt in, I still believe though, is better than not
Mm.
having them at all. But you're
Yeah.
right. You want to be able to toggle them on and off. And that's all to do with the players that you have. And so
Yes.
again, if you are embedding, some video into your website or wherever you're putting it, you want to make sure that it's using a player that you can toggle on and off, that does allow for audio description, that does give
Mm.
you a transcript, that you can upload a transcript file, for example.
Yeah.
So that's all. It's more to do with the player, and you want to you don't want to have to burn them in, but if that's your only option, it's better than not, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But yes, you've got to think about contrast.
Yep.
So I see a lot that is white, and then you have the
Mm.
background change to white, and you're like, oh, I can't read that. So
Yeah.
some of it we can control, some of it we can't. But
Mm.
you want to be. I've seen them with little sort of drop shadows on them, but yeah, you don't want them to be a distraction. You want them to be an enhancement to the learning or to the
Yeah.
viewing.
And that's it, isn't it? I know with my sons at times when, they were younger and you'd put captions on and they spent more time laughing at the captions and you'd be
Yeah,
wanting
the
them to
funny words.
really, yeah, understand what's happening. Or you get those words you really don't want your kids at certain ages to know about. Kids of any age,
Oh,
actually,
yes,
sometimes. And
yes.
there's nothing you can do because it's captioned and it's there. So we've covered captions. Let's look at audio description. What can people do about that? What is audio description?
Well, audio description is describing what's being shown on the
Mm.
screen, and it gives that richness to the movie that you're watching. That
Mm.
someone who's blind, they're watching some Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, for example, and there's the
Yeah.
city's being blown up, and there's all this sound that's going on, and
Yeah.
someone who's blind, that's where they go and get a drink because they just have no idea
Yeah.
what they're actually seeing. And so that text becomes, that descriptive outline of what's being shown. And, as even as a sighted user of audio description, I think it adds that value, that
Yeah.
extra insight into what the creator was intending. That
Yes.
is just so beautiful. And so that's something that, they're only just starting to teach even in film school.
Mm.
Where are the breaks, even for live
Mhm.
production, where will the breaks be? Where will we actually start to have, what's being said? Where will we
Mm.
start to insert that audio description that's describing what's being shown? They need to be, with everything for accessibility, thought about from the beginning. But, there's a lot of video out there that we need to retrofit it into. And so, again, looking for a player that will allow you to pause so that
Yes.
you can do an audio description version where you
Mm.
can describe it to give the context of what's being shown in detail. And
Mm.
Narelle, my pet hate is where people
Yeah.
put up stuff on the screen. So they put up like tags or names of people, or
Yeah.
they words that aren't actually said, that someone
Oh,
who can't see them, or like I said, maybe listening in their car,
yeah.
doesn't then have an idea of, what that announcement is. And so
Yeah.
we need to think about, even when we're presenting to camera, when we're putting together videos, that we're thinking about the words that we're using and where we're putting those words. So even as a presenter presenting to camera, if you can start to describe what you've got going on in your scene as if there is someone who's just listening and not watching,
Mm.
then we do away with the need for more audio description. So we
And I
then
could
don't
watch my
need as
footy
much.
game.
And you can
And
watch
I
your
could,
footy game.
yeah, yeah.
There is a
But
real skill in doing that.
yes, one of the things that I get the giggles with is I love cricket as well. So in cricket season, I'll quite happily sit with the radio and listening to the cricket. Now, if I listen to the Australian commentators, and this is picking on the Australians, I can't actually know the way the field's set, or yeah, who's facing, who's bowling, but who's out at mid on, who's at mid off, who's down deep, all of those little things. You know who the wicket keeper is, but the field set, you don't know. There's things you don't know. They'll say, oh, yeah, wind's blowing from the east or whatever. If you listen to the BBC commentators, they're good because you do know. They will talk about that. And the reason I love listening to cricket is I like cricket. And for me, I'm not interested in anecdotes of what happened to Adam Gilchrist 20 years ago. I actually want to know, because I actually watched Adam Gilchrist play 20 years ago. I actually want to know what's going on in the game.
Yes.
And that's so frustrating for me. So it's really, I'm at the stage, I don't listen to my football, I don't listen to my cricket because it's frustrating. But one of the other things that I don't think people understand is, in my family, I have people on the autism spectrum. And when I'm watching, I love those murder mysteries, those, can be a little bit gruesome.
Yes.
Watching one day, and obviously audio description was on, and it was Annika is looking depressed. And one of them that has on the autistic spectrum says, oh, I wonder what she was doing. Because don't forget, people with on the
Yes.
autism spectrum, some of them cannot read body language and facial language. So
Yeah.
it
And
gives
that's
them an
very
extra level. Yeah.
That that is an extremely good point, and we talk about that especially for education material. So if you're producing educational content, you want to think about what in the audio description that you're actually capturing in more detail some of the emotions, some of the expressions, so that someone on the ASD spectrum can make those connections. And that's how they learn, just as equally as as all of us. We can't.
Yeah.
That is the power of audio description.
It is, isn't it? And I don't think people really get that. But even for young kids that are learning how to read body language, learning how to read facial expressions, Bluey's a classic. Bluey's the audio described. And I love it. I sit there with my grandkids and I watch Bluey. And the kids all, they'll be where they used to say, oh, Bluey's really upset. I'll hear, Bluey is feeling upset. And the boys will go, oh, yeah, Bluey's upset, Grandma. They've said it. And they're learning as well how to read body language, how to read facial expression, and those important tools that kids need to get along in life.
Absolutely. And this is, you've heard me say this many, many times, Narelle, but when we think about and we make things accessible, it makes it better for everyone.
Yeah, it does. What about transcription? So we've covered captions and audio description. Let's cover transcription.
Yeah, so transcripts are capturing basically everything that's said and everything that's shown on that
Mhm.
screen as a written document that
Yep.
and some players actually will you've seen them, they cycle through with the word that changes color as it's being said,
Yes.
and some that you can just download and print out. And I think that they're an invaluable tool to learn from. You
Hmm.
can take those notes and put them into Chat GPT to maybe give you a
Yep.
summary of the video.
Yep.
Pull out key things. So there's many advantages of that. And I think that if you've gone to the trouble of making sure your captions are right and your captions are there and your audio description, then having the transcript and that's the icing on the cake, right? You have
It
total
is.
control over, or choice. We talk about choice over how you consume that content.
Yeah.
Actually, Curtin University did a study about a year or so ago now. They actually used our tool for their lectures, and
Yes.
the outcome of that study was that it actually gave students more choice. So making them accessible not only
Mm.
opened up their lectures that
Yes.
had been recorded to any kind of student, regardless of their ability. It
Hmm.
actually, at the end of the day, gave the student choice over how they consume that content. Because a lot of them now are juggling part-time jobs and, traveling on buses and things like that, that they could listen to the lecture that had been, as that was a video recording. They could listen perhaps while they're on a bus and
Hmm.
know that whatever was being shown on the screen was, they were capturing all of that, and they could have the printout in front of them. English is a second language. They could slow it down, they could speed it up, they could watch the words. So, video, such a powerful, powerful tool, but only if we have made it accessible.
Yeah. Belinda, what's a couple of tips that you could give to the people that are listening in regards to this subject?
If you are creating your video content from the beginning, then think about how you are, what you are saying, and how you can eliminate some of the need for
Hmm.
some audio description. Because if you get it right from the start, then it's actually inclusive from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're finding a tool that makes captioning easy and audio description easy, because when it's easy, you're more likely to do it. And
Yes.
I actually want everyone to join us and be advocates for audio description. We've done a lot in getting captions and having there's an expectation around captions, and we need to now do the same with audio description. So, I invite everyone who's listening to join us on this bandwagon of having
Oh,
that
yeah.
conversation, asking for audio description and knowing the value of it.
Yeah. You couldn't have said it, Belinda. I so agree with you. And for people with disability, for people like myself, so I can just watch my footy game, it
Yep.
would be exciting. Belinda, how can people contact you to keep the conversation going?
Well, we have a website, www.meetandi, so that's meetandi.com.au, and or
Yeah.
you get me at belinda@meetandi.com.au and just tell them that Narelle sent you.
Thank you. Seriously, Belinda, thanks for your time. You've given me some food for thought, particularly in regards to transcription. But like anything, the show has to end. We can't keep talking all day. So, look, please like, subscribe, review, share, feedback. We love feedback, whether it's really good, bad, or ugly. And we will see you next time on the Digital Access Show. See you then.